In a world where wants and needs clash, where wishes and desires are thought of as one, in a world where humans have boundless limits, it's quite easy for us to start complaining and get frustrated when our needs, wants, wishes, and desires don't get fulfilled. We tend to get so worked up about such small things in only a matter of seconds, but take an uncountable amount of time to be patient with ourselves and identify what we really want or desire. Hello everyone, my name is Aurodyuti Dutta, and today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the 3 out of the many components of life. Let me start off by asking you this. You call someone, but they don't seem to respond, so you call them again. Only this time your voice sounds more stressed and sharp. Yet they still don't respond. The 3rd time, you don't call, instead you yell. So, did you yell because you thought they couldn't hear you? Or did you yell because you lost your cool? Personally, I'd say the second option. But really, only you know what you really think and feel. And only you know what you really want. And you can only really figure it out when you experience such situations in your life. We all seem to understand some things without needing experience, such as the circumference of a circle is pi d, or 2 pi r. Well, that's because these are things we learn, and no one will stay the same, as there are no variations of the formulas we learn. But that's not the same in the cases of our lives, is it? No. In life, every situation brings on different opinions, different emotions, different people, different environments, and a variety of different ways to overcome each and every one of those situations. And that is what makes life seem so hard. And I only got to think of this after I myself had experienced a wild chapter in my life. Let me tell you a small story of mine. When 2020 began, I didn't think my life was going to be different than I imagined. Nor did I think the sales percentage of sanitizers would rise by 255%. It was the first day of online learning, or what we called e-learning. I was doing my homework while my mom was cooking in the kitchen, when my dad suddenly blurted in Bengali, "Hey, oh no!" My mom and I quickly rushed to my dad. What happened? I still remember the feeling of hearing those painful and unsettling words from my dad. Amader visa disapproved henge. Our visa has gone disapproved. Rivers of tears fell from our eyes. It was hard having to think of our heartbreaking reality, realizing we would have to leave our family, friends, and home. I felt like my happiness was being taken away from me. I kept looking at the negative side of things. In a way, I wanted to think of our situation as a bad and negative one. But I realized later on, it was wrong. It was wrong of me to think that way, when I didn't even allow myself to accept the positivity that was actually there. I felt a whole package of emotions during the last few months of my time there. It was like someone had given us a VIP pass to life. It was divine. Closer to the time of our move, things were quite emotional and messy. Our house looked like a shop with all of our things laying around everywhere. All the pink toys from when I was a little girl were staring at my mom, pleading her not to send them away. We had to give away a lot of our things, say goodbye to many things, and throw away many things. It was hard to do so, but I think to myself now, maybe it was a change that was waiting to happen. At the end of that week, my friends had surprised me with a surprise farewell party, or as I like to call it, a come back soon party. They treated me like a queen, and we had such a blast, and gave me the most precious gifts ever. I am so thankful for such amazing friends like them. A few days later, it was finally the day we would leave our home. I remember that moment of getting into our friend's car and leaving, seeing our teary-eyed friends waving goodbye. As we reached the airport and were in line to check in our luggage, my eyes could only see other people around me, all masked up, holding bottles of sanitizers in their gloved hands. I didn't make much of it then, but I realized later on that it wasn't just me going through a hard time. There were many other people, many other families who were also suffering, and not just because of COVID. In fact, our whole world was suffering, and still is. And that made me think at that moment, maybe then I shouldn't be the one complaining. As soon as it was was time for us to take off, I remember looking out the plane window and saying these exact words to myself. Bye home, this is my last time seeing you for now. But I'll come soon for sure though, not knowing how far or close soon was. With depressed faces, we three made our way over the Atlantic Ocean and finally reached India. After spending some uneasy hours at the airport and a restless night at an unknown hotel, we reached my family's hometown and went straight to our hotel for quarantine. Our next 2 weeks in quarantine were quite eventful. Eventful, you ask? Well, me being the crazy dancer I am, dance follows me wherever and no matter where I go. And that week, my dance group was participating in an online dance recital, so how could I not take part in it? We moved the furniture around, that way I would have some space for me to dance, and we asked the kind hotel staff to provide us some lights. The live went so well and ended smoothly. As my family and I were getting such positive vibes after the recital, neither of us acknowledged it, but we each knew and felt that even in the hardest hours of your life, there are some very beautiful seconds. And that is what inspires me to this day, to value the little things that I come across in life, even the things that seem so insignificant, but to remember them for as long as I can. Soon after, we reached my grandma's home and tried to get settled in. We tried. Days were passing by like breaths, each day filled with something new and different. I was starting to live a new lifestyle. There were unusual and unwanted feelings that were rising in me. I was getting irritated and losing my calm really often. And along with that, I was also having trouble with school. But it wasn't just me. Even my parents were having a hard time, since they hadn't been to the birthplace in so long. And, of course, over time, places go through multiple changes. You can't expect a place to remain in the same way it was when you last saw it, can you? We all know that, yet we ignore that fact and get so disheartened when we face those changes and are never satisfied with them. And it's all right to not feel good about those changes, but we can't hold ourselves back from them. We need to accept them, be in the present, be the now. And plus, if changes didn't happen, we would never get to learn. We would get bored of our lives, as there would be no variety. We would never get exposed to new places, nor get to see the wonders of new inventions. Nothing in this world is permanent, not even permanent markers. And we can't deny that. We need to learn to accept the changes that come our way, make them ourselves, but not get caught by them. Our world is changing every minute, every second. People are changing, animals are adapting, technology is developing, places are refurnishing, and our beloved Earth is evolving. We humans don't have the power to stop it, nor should we try to. Instead, we should be mindful of our present. It will lead us to changing our attitude towards things, which will eventually change our perspective, making everything that looks so dark look so much brighter. And I only got to understand this during my stay in India. A few months had passed by, and my birthday was just around the corner. And things seemed to be a little less chaotic than they were, until my mom had shown signs of a fever. Now, if this was before a worldwide pandemic was spreading and making big stories on the news, then maybe we wouldn't have been so worried or tensed. But now, hearing that someone has a fever, in my case, my mom, it was nerve-wracking. We got her tested, and it turned out she had been tested positive. The news cut us deep in our hearts. I felt like my world was ending. I was starting to lose myself. So many things were new for me. The school, the climate, the lifestyle, and I wasn't used to any of it. I kept wishing for all the things that I was away from, that I wanted, and that I wished I could gain. But there's a difference between wishing for things and wanting for things. At least I think so. For me, wishing is when you hope for something to happen without being mindful of your reality and just kind of hoping for it to magically happen without putting in any work. Whereas wanting something is when you have determination that mindful of your present and yourself, and at the end of your hard work, all your wants and desires will come true. But I wish that I could go home soon. I wished I could see my friends again, and I wish things would go back to normal. I was so stuck on wishing for things that I didn't realize, because of my continuous wishes, I wasn't paying attention to myself. All those unwanted and unusual feelings that were in me weren't going anywhere, nor getting the attention I was supposed to give to them. I was getting more irritated and more frustrated for the smallest things that I did before. I would go on complaining about bearing up with the heat, having to eat the same type of food every day, not getting any space to myself, and not getting to go outside. But, it shocks me now that it took me only about less than 3 seconds to get so worked up about something so little. But instead, if I had used those 3 seconds to just calm down, to shut up, and give my mind some time to think, then maybe things wouldn't seem so complicated. Yeah, when I say shut up, I mean literally shut up. Stop talking. Give your voice box a minute to rest. Sometimes saying nothing at all makes your brain do all the talking. Once told by Aurodyuti Dutta, also me. Just by keeping quiet gives your brain one thing to focus on. That one thing being your thoughts and how you feel about them. According to studies, an average person complains up to 30 times a day. So about 210 times a week, 930 times a month, and about 11,116 times a year. And for your whole lifetime, you do the math. So basically what I'm trying to say is, don't be that average person. Instead, just clear your mind and ask yourself, what is it that's making you complain so much? What is it that's getting you so worked up? What is it that you really want? Give your mind some time to think. Think of where you are now, not where you were or not where you want to be, and pay attention to how you feel at that exact moment. Slowly, you'll realize that your mind has settled things down for you. Once I realized this, I got straight to it. I tried to hold myself back from being lazy and instead worked hard on myself. I tried to practice dance every day for an hour or so and tried to do art whenever I could. And along with that, I also started exercising to keep myself fresh and in better moods. It might have made the smallest difference, but I feel like things were getting better and better every day, even though really nothing had changed other than my attitude. And by changing my attitude, I was looking at my present from a whole other perspective. From then on, I try to keep myself happy and try to be mindful of myself and of my surroundings. To me, that's called patience. It doesn't mean to hold in your opinions to yourself or to bear or put up with things you don't like. To me, it means to know what you really want by knowing the reasons or the motives behind it. To me, it means to be mindful of yourself, of your surroundings, of the things you love. I am currently still in India with my family, and this wild chapter that is still going on in my life has taught me and is still teaching me so many things, which I'll value for as long as I can. Life portrays many different situations for each of us to go through, each one with different stories and different teachings. But there's one thing that's common in all of them, and that's the patience or the mindfulness needed to face those situations. So, with patience, figure out what you want and how you want it. Be mindful of your present and then make your decisions. Don't be pained by changes. Instead, go along with them, make them yourself, and see where you take yourself in life. As changes occur, we all need to know what we really want and need to be mindful of ourselves. So take some time for you, yourself, and your mind. These 3 things that we connected today, patience, mindfulness, and change, make a big part of our lives. It's not just about you, or not just about me. It's about all of us, about our whole world. I hope you can take these values with you and remind yourself about them in the future. Thank you so much, and I'll stop talking for now.